Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I like it.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me on Twitter at FFBallBlast. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Marcus Mosher. Follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Please give the show a follow too at Locked On Dynasty. Hit that subscribe button. Leave those 5-star reviews. Help others find the show as long as they're not your league mates, so we can help you build the ultimate Dynasty fantasy football roster. Marcus, we just had Thursday night football, but we have some unfortunate news.
Very unfortunate news, Kate. It looks like Christian McCaffrey is going to be out for at least a few games. He pulled his hamstring and they ruled him out really quickly. That was the more concerning thing. We actually had somebody on scene watching that game last night. So, Kate, you were there.
I was.
Did you gain any extra little nuggets from being in the stadium?
I did not, honestly.
I didn't know if you had like some extra sideline report for us, but
no, but I did get a glimpse, when DJ Moore was hobbled off the field a little bit. I feel like I was the first person to get that tweet out. So I don't know, maybe reporting's in my near future. I don't know. Who's to say?
All right. So let's talk about Chuba Hubbard and how many times is he going to be called Chuba over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But, if he's available in your dynasty leagues, and let's say waivers go through on Wednesday or Thursday next week, okay, how much are you comfortable spending in your fab budgets? Like, is this a 100% player? Is it somebody that's only going to be a 2 or 3 week guy? What are you thinking here?
This is probably 100% player for me.
Yeah.
I have been higher on Chuba than the general public. I think folks were pretty down on him after his final season in college, but I think he looked pretty good. He looked bursty yesterday, had 11 rushes, 52 rushing yards, was involved in the receiving game. I mean, Chuba is a guy that should not have been on any dynasty waivers to begin with, but there are some leagues with, shorter rosters that maybe aren't as deep. And Chuba's the kind of guy that I think is going to see a very, very heavy workload anytime Christian McCaffrey is out. And how quickly he was ruled out with that hamstring injury, I'm pretty concerned. Even if we do see a timely return for Christian McCaffrey, we've seen how these hamstrings can linger and linger and linger. Chuba Hubbard might be the guy that even if Christian McCaffrey is on the field, as they're working him back from injury, he might still be getting some touches, which Sam check down Darnold is going to get plenty of use out of him. And let's not forget about what he accomplished in 2019. He had 2,000 rushing yards on just over 300 attempts, 21 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he just didn't have the end of his career that you would want at Oklahoma State. Was banged up pretty consistently there, mm-hmm. But he's a great runner. I think he's a little bit more explosive than his 40 time indicates. He's 100% fab guy for me.
I think the thing that's the most encouraging is that he saw 5 targets in this game, Kate, and it was a game the Texans led the entire time. So there's going to be games coming up for the Panthers. They're not going to go 17-0. I'm just going to break some news right now. I know they're 3-0 right now. They're not going 17-0. Assuming McCaffrey misses, I don't know, let's say 3 or 4 weeks, because that seems pretty realistic, Kate. I think there's games that he gets 7 or 8 targets and he gets 13, 14 carries. And if that's the case, he's at the very worst in RB2, right? At the very, very worst.
At the very, very worst. I mean, we didn't even see him play a full game. Finished out with nearly 80 scrimmage yards, 3 catches, and that was with limited playing time here.
It's also with
I'm
Sam
very
Darnold getting 2 rushing touchdowns. What the heck, man?
What in the world? Yeah, we don't even need to talk about that. Hopefully he doesn't keep sniping off that goal line work. But
Cam Newton. Yep.
Cam Newton, baby. It's that Panthers curse. But Chuba, all in. I am all in on Chuba.
Another big story for him last night.
But
Well,
you know what? Folks
ahead.
might not have any fab left because they blew it on
Elijah Mitchell.
But I will say, like, let's compare the two. Who would you have preferred? Like, if you could retroactively go back, look at your fab scenario, how much of your budget would you rather have spent on Chuba versus Elijah Mitchell? Is there?
I would still rather have Elijah Mitchell for a couple of reasons. I think McCaffrey is going to be back, and Hubbard, once McCaffrey's back, probably goes to a role where you're not playing him. I was actually really encouraged by what I saw last week from Elijah Mitchell. Like, the 49ers wanted to give him a bunch of touches. I think he had 17 carries last week before injuring his shoulder. I still think Elijah Mitchell is the right play. I want to talk, Kate, about a couple other things from last night that were really, really interesting. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. And I know for sure today is the last day you can buy the cookie dough protein bar, which is my absolute favorite. Make sure you guys are going to check that out. When you go to Built Bar, go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you can get 15% off your next box. Again, I highly, highly recommend the cookie dough chunk. Very, very good. A couple other things from last night. Brandon Cooks. He's just good, Kate. I don't know what else we can say. Like, it doesn't matter where he's playing or who he's playing with. All that guy does is produce. Where are you valuing Brandon Cooks for the rest of the season?
Wide receiver as a wide receiver too with upside. I mean, just the absolute target share. Obviously, the quality of targets without Tyrod Taylor. Hopefully, we do see Tyrod Taylor return sometime soon. He's on IR, so that's at least 3 weeks out. But Tyrod Taylor has looked actually pretty fantastic. He's been able to move the ball, and I think if Tyrod Taylor had been under center yesterday, we would have seen a much different game. I don't think the Texans would be as bad as we had all projected them to be. But I mean, Brandon Cooks, he is quarterback proof, regardless of whether or not he's got quality targets. He's got 2 straight weeks of 11 plus targets, 9 receptions. He did nothing yesterday, or at least it felt that way. And he ended up with 9 for 112. Like, that's incredible.
Kate, I want to play a little game with you. In his last 14 games, how many receiving yards do you think Brandon Cooks has?
Ooh.
All with the Texans.
Like total receiving yards?
Total receiving yards in the last 14 games.
I feel like it has to be around 1,400.
Yeah, it's 1,344. I mean, that's
right.
Pretty stinking good, averaging over 14 yards per reception, 94 receptions. I mean, those are like wide receiver 1 numbers, like legitimate wide receiver 1 numbers. If you told me right now, hey, Justin Jefferson is going to put up 1,400 yards in 14 games this season, you'd take that all day, right?
Absolutely.
Brandon Cooks, just a really, really good player. And on top of that, he's still pretty young. He's only 27 years old. Actually, he turns 28 tomorrow, so I probably should mention that. But he's 27.
Happy birthday, Brandon.
Yes, happy birthday, Brandon.
If you're watching.
The next thing I wanted to bring up, DJ Moore. Maybe the star of that game yesterday. I mean, it felt like he had every single target, and it felt like he could have had an even bigger day. He went 8 for 126. He had 6 receptions in the first 2 drives of the game. Sam Darnold missed him a couple times, but DJ Moore is somebody who we've ranked outside of the top 10 in terms of dynasty receivers for the last couple of years. Is that a mistake?
Yes. I was looking over some stats. One of the stats that came across on TV ahead of the game was that DJ Moore is ranked 5th in receiving yards over the last 2 seasons?
Mhm.
When did that happen? I mean, he's only 24 years old, and I feel like we just sort of gave up on him. But he was definitely the clear-cut star of this team. He's definitely Sam Darnold's preferred target. Rodney Anderson is just not like we thought. Maybe we'd see 2 teammates, reuniting, but I mean, 2 games out of 3 with 3 or fewer targets. He is not a part of this offense. You've got to be concerned about that. But all of that target share, I think, is going to be funneled to Chuba and going to be funneled to DJ Moore. This is like just a general big time miss. There was a buy low opportunity, and I think we just missed it hard.
Yeah, DJ Moore's last 40 games, Kate, 3,100 receiving yards, 125 rushing yards. So basically, he's a lock to get you like 80 plus yards a game. Now, the touchdowns are the concerning thing. He only has 10 touchdowns over the last 40 games. Should have had one last night. Should have had maybe a couple last night. But when you get somebody that's just that consistently involved in the offense, I just feel like he's one of the safest receivers in football right now, right? I think maybe not a high-end wide receiver 1, but a pretty safe low-end guy, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that we get to see these 2 players back to back. But I mean, look at the production of Brandon Cooks versus DJ Moore, and we're here talking like both of these players were just so undervalued coming into the season. Very, very impressed with what they've been able to do, because it's not like either of them are on high flying offenses. I'm not ready to call the Panthers offense high flying just yet. I mean, we don't have Patrick Mahomes on our hands, but maybe, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes light. We could call Sam Darnold if we get
sure.
If we get so crazy, but I'm not buying in quite yet. But this is definitely a team to watch, and 2 players to watch.
I agree. Another guy we want to talk about, and this is somebody looking ahead to week 3, and I need you to help me here, because I have like 100% exposure to Laviska Shenault in redraft, to best ball, to dynasty leagues. If I thought week 1 he looked okay. Week 2 did not play particularly well. What are your thoughts on Laviska going forward?
That's a no-go for me, Captain.
Oh.
So there's a few interesting things about Laviska Shenault. He's getting the target share, had 16 targets over his first 2 games, 9 catches, only 47 receiving yards, which is like absolutely bonkers.
Do you know the receiving yards he had last week?
I actually don't.
You had more than he did. He had -3, 2 receptions for -3 yards.
So here's like the kicker here with Laviska Shenault. Obviously, you like when you see that kind of target share for a player, but the average depth of target is so concerning. They are not utilizing him down the field. Just 4.69 yards per target in average depth of target. Like, for comparison, DK Metcalf, who he hasn't been getting those long, deep balls that we're all used to. But so it feels like DK Metcalf has been targeted short this season. His average depth of target is 11 yards. Justin Jefferson, 12.6 yards. Marvin Jones, 15 yards. So like, when you especially compare him next to Marvin Jones, you see that we do have a rookie quarterback who is willing to throw it down the field, just not to Laviska Shenault. And that's clearly how they're planning to utilize him. Is he going to get you some PPR points? Perhaps, but unless they start utilizing him further out from the line of scrimmage, it's just not going to translate to fantasy points. And I'm completely out. So I'm very sorry for the exposure that you have. It's got to hurt.
Oh, it hurts really bad. But it's okay. So currently on Dynasty League football, Laviska Shenault is wide receiver 37. I'm going to name some guys that were going after him You tell me who you would rather have. Laviska Shenault or Julio Jones?
Julio Jones.
Laviska Shenault or DJ Chark? I would still rule with Visca there, but that's just me.
It's so hard. So Laviska's and I'm probably the wrong person to ask here because I wasn't high on Laviska coming into the season. So I've just had all of my suspicions confirmed basically heading into this season. Laviska, I think the talent is there, but the usage, as long as Urban Meyer is there in the coaching room, he's a no-go. At least right. DJ Chark, he's getting some targets further downfield, which is just a little. The targets are more valuable for fantasy football.
Fair enough. Next one, Michael Pittman or Laviska Shenault?
Michael Pittman.
I agree. Last one, wide receiver 49, Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough time to be a Laviska Shenault dynasty owner. I'm hoping he plays well this week and we can have a party here on Monday talking about Laviska and we can say why we're wrong, but not great.
I'm not projecting the party. I'm not buying favors ahead of time.
Another guy, Kate, that we should talk about who, has been really disappointing so far in his NFL career, Clyde Edwards-Elaire. Had the fumble last week, didn't get a ton of work in the passing game. I did see a report this week that he had his best practice ever as he's getting ready for week 3. What do you do with Clyde Edwards-Elaire? Because he's currently RB13 on Dynasty League Football. If you own him in any other leagues, you know that it's not fun to have him. I believe I'm looking at him right now, but hold on. I want to find out what his rank is in PPR leagues because it's not very good.
It's quite low.
Running back 49 right now in PPR leagues.
Yeah.
What do we do?
This is really tough, but I'm still buying CEH, and this could bite me in the booty down the line. I'm sorry to maybe I like the pain. I don't know what.
You're just such a wet blanket, I think what it is with some of these guys though.
I know, but I'm still going back to CH. I believe in the prospect. I believe in the offense. And something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, one of my co-hosts on the Ball Blast podcast pointed out, we're forgetting that CH was actually hobbled with an ankle injury just before the season, had a sprained ankle. What was it? Week 1 of the preseason, week 2? Mm-hmm. Ended up injured with the sprained ankle. The timetable for his recovery was kind of 4 to 6 weeks, but he got back on the field immediately. Probably not going to be 100%. And that's definitely what we've seen. I'm buying with the idea that that's a narrative that nobody's talking about just yet, hoping that, as he gets further out from this ankle injury, gets more reps, gets going, gets healthier, that we are going to see him utilized more heavily. We're going to see him return to form. I'm hoping.
I can't do it, Kate. I can't do it. I'm not a Laviska. I'm not a Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. I wasn't pre-draft.
That was a Freudian slip.
Oh man, I'm not a Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy at all. It's frustrating. But all right, let's move on to some what the heck flexes. Kate, who are some guys you have to elevate from your bench into your starting lineups this week?
All right, this one's going to be, again, pretty gross. We always have the nice and gross names for you. I'm actually looking at Quintez Cephas this week, wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. Not like a household name. This is of course, a deep play. We did see a really nice, almost highlight reel play, almost an Odell Beckham-like grab from Quintez Cephas over the last week.
I like Cephas.
Yeah, I think that, on paper, this matchup going against the Ravens, it does not sound favorable whatsoever. But since the Ravens lost Marcus Peters, they are allowing much more through the air than any of us would have expected. And Quintez Cephas, he's been utilized. So TJ Hawkinson obviously leads the team, 20 targets, DeAndre Swift, 16, but Quintez Cephas, 13 targets, leading all wide receivers there. Tyrell Williams just placed on IR. So he will be out for the foreseeable future. I'm actually just pretty encouraged overall by what we've seen, in terms of what the Ravens have allowed.
Yes.
They've allowed the 8th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Not something any of us would have projected coming into this year.
I like it. Cephas at this, I think he's a good player. Like, he almost had just a ridiculous catch against the Packers. I mean, and he looked good. So I like that call. I'm going to give you mine, Kate. It's a Tampa Bay receiver, but I'm going to tell you after the break. How's that for a little bit of a tease? I want you to think who I'm going to pick because there's two options here. But before we do that, Bet Online. We are back and better than ever, as Bet Online is your #1 spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the #1 source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That is double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use promo code NFL100. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Kate, Scotty Miller for me. Scotty Miller is somebody that Tom Brady trusts. He's somebody that when he gets targeted, typically sees a lot of balls down the field. Even last week, when they had all their receivers available to them, it was a blowout. Still ran 11 routes. And with Antonio Brown on the COVID list, I think it's very realistic that Scotty Miller is going to play a big role. And we saw last year, like in the NFC Championship game, Scotty Miller, he can play and he can make plays downfield. So in a game that should have a ton of points with the Rams and Bucks, I like Scotty Miller.
I actually really, really like this call. You're right. It comes down to like the trust factor. And this is definitely a player that we have seen Tom Brady go back to time and time again. Very, very interesting play. I like it. I might have to actually make a play in some of my deeper dynasty leagues. So I'm going to roll with that. I do have him rostered.
He's not rostered in many leagues, though. So if you're really in a tough spot here, I'm looking right now in ESPN leagues. He's rostered in 0.4% of leagues. He's available.
0.4. But to be fair, ESPN is more redraft focused. So check your sleepers, check your my fantasy leagues, see where he's at.
Anybody else for you?
I'm having some hard times here. This particular week getting too in the nitty gritty, but I do want to talk about rookie tight end Pat Freiermuth. He's looked fantastic. We've seen already. He hasn't been overly involved. He hasn't really needed to be overly involved, but we had a injury to Dante Johnson. Still not totally clear where we're at on that injury. Reports said that he avoided any serious injury, but still don't really have any updates to that point. But he's given you no reason to have any concerns for him. He's caught 5 of his 5 targets for 60 yards. And I do think that perhaps an injury to Dante Johnson, who leads the team by far in targets, has 22 leading the team. Next is Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, each with 13 targets. That's a big discrepancy, and that's a lot of targets left to be dispersed. Pat Freiermuth, if you're really hurting at the tight end position, I think you can elevate him to the active roster with the hopes that he's going to see a few targets this week and could pay off for fantasy managers.
I like that call, Kate, a lot. That's it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. You can follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. And I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you next